vacuum tubes are warming up. This is a special live broadcast right here on Georgia Radio.
We're continuing our series on local Georgia authors, and today we're talking to a gentleman who writes science fiction. We're going out into outer space and discuss some science fiction stuff with John Costales. John, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
How did you decide on science fiction? Was this something that you've loved a long time yourself reading, or was it just something that you said, I think I'm going to be great at this?
Well,
Dive
actually,
into it.
Yeah, since I was very young, I've liked science fiction. The first book I ever read was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea when I was, 9 or 10. And that's hooked me in science fiction ever since. And I've tried writing it some and never felt like I was really good enough to be an author. And until later on in life, and then I finally decided to put some effort into it.
What did you do before you became an author?
I worked in information technology for about, a long time, forever. Worked at MARTA here in Atlanta for about 20 years and developed software.
Well, some folks would describe that as science fiction, so I see sort of where it came from. Your stories that you've published, I want to just get into this. Visions of Redemption, which was published January of 2022, and then this year in January you released sort of a follow-on book, Visions of Deception. They're both available at your website, which is johncostaleswriter.com, and we'll quick link that to the show story so folks can find it.
Okay.
Tell us about it.
Those are two books in a trilogy. I'm working on the third one right now, and they're about this pilot, a starfighter pilot that has visions that tell him to do things that he's really not capable of doing. And they keep threatening to put him in this bog and leave him forever if he doesn't complete what they're telling him to do. And he manages to avoid that. And in the meantime, he's trying to figure out a way to stop these visions and keep them from affecting him. So that's kind of what the story's about. Interesting
stuff right there. Have you ever flown a spaceship? I asked that sort of tongue in cheek.
No, I haven't.
Yeah. This is the challenge though of a writer is to create a believable world, and then draw it out. How did you learn how to do that?
Well, mostly reading and just writing my stuff and reading it through and seeing how it flows and how it comes across, and hopefully other people will find it intriguing and emerging.
Well, the interesting part about that, I love having co-authors on the show too. That's perfect when the dogs start barking. But the challenge here, the challenge with this, and I bring up a legitimate question here, is when you are writing about something as challenging as space flight in the future, that is just something that is so difficult to research. How do you manage that? Because so many writers, they'll tell you it has to be believable in science fiction. Talk to me about your process on that, John.
Oh man, that's tough. I just I've never flown an aircraft. I've flown in planes, but I've never actually piloted anything. And I kind of imagine in my mind what it would be like knowing what is involved with an airplane and, just the information I have about people flying and stuff, and then put myself in a spaceship and try to fly it.
Yeah. And that's got to be kind of a fun process, I would imagine, which is part of what drew you into this.
Yeah, and you kind of have to just get into the mode of being there and doing it and imagining what would be involved, and then seeing the science fiction shows, Star Trek, Star Wars, things like that, where people are on the spaceships and all gives you an idea of, what it might be like.
What does your family think of all of this? I mean, here you were with a great software career and working for MARTA and all of this, and now you're writing science fiction. Talk to me about how you introduced this idea to them.
Oh, well, that's pretty easy. I've been writing since the 70s in my spare time, just trying to put stuff together. And then once I retired, I had loads of time to write, so I spend my time writing. My wife is still working, so I have a lot of free time to put to it.
She's like, write another book.
Yeah.
We need to fix this around the house, John. Go write a book and sell it. Do you do this for fun, or is it also become a source of income for you?
Well, no, it's probably not a source of income. I haven't sold very many books. It's fun to write it. It's fun to get it out, to have people read it and get some feedback. But I really don't think I'd make a living off of it.
I bring that up because it has become something that you've loved doing, as you mentioned there, in retirement. If folks go to johncostaleswriter.com, they can read more about your career and more about you and what you've done. But here's the interesting thing: the works in progress that you're working on are fascinating. You have another in the trilogy there, but then there's some other ones that you have out there: the Golden Scepter, the Walking Dragon, or the Waking Dragon, rather. All of these books that you're working on have been, I'm guessing, workshopped in the different writers groups that you're part of.
Well, the Golden Scepter I was in a writing class, and they had us do a project that kind of started that story off, and I finished it. The other one's the Waking Dragon, actually, is about our 6 cats that we used to have. And they live in a kingdom that's invaded by a dragon, and they have to deal with him.
And I bet they deal with him ruthlessly.
And they try.
Never met him.
He's pretty ferocious, and they don't have a lot of luck with him.
That's funny.
But they do come out on top in the end.
The cats always do. Hometown Novel Nights, you're going to be participating in that this summer, June the 7th. Right downtown Noonan, Georgia. Is that near where you live, John? Are you a part of that group?
Yeah, I'm in Fayetteville, so it's fairly close to where I live.
That's a wonderful group there with Hometown Novel Nights, isn't it?
Yeah. This is the first thing I've done with them. Yeah, so it'll be interesting.
It's a great group of folks, and there's so many talented writers in and around the state. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're talking so much about it. Talk to me about your experience with the Atlanta Writers Club.
Oh, yeah, I joined that. Ever since I've joined it, everything I've done, I've gotten through the Writers Club. All the events I've gone to and the conferences and things, and had a couple of people edit some of the stuff I did. And it's really been beneficial for me, and I've enjoyed it.
So if you're on the fence about writing a book, maybe even something as complicated and as complex as what John writes, the Atlanta Writers Club, a great group of folks. Were you daunted at all by the idea of showing up to a Writers Club meeting?
Well, actually, I haven't gone to any of the club meetings. I've gone to one club meeting. I go to the conferences and I look at their email and stuff and get things through that.
Yeah.
The issue with that is that they're up on the other side of town in Dunwoody, and I'm in Fayetteville. It's like a 50-mile drive to get up there.
Yeah, it's tough to do on an afternoon or whenever you're meeting it.
Yeah.
But the great thing is they have all of these virtual components to it as well, which has really reduced the travel time for a lot of folks. Are you part of a critique group then, a local critique?
Actually, I just got into one that I haven't had a chance to go to one of the meetings yet. It's all virtual. So I plan to get into that and start having some people read my stuff and give me some feedback. And that'll be very helpful, I think.
Well, if folks want to find your books, again, it's johncostaleswriter.com. I want you to give them some words of encouragement here, John, as we sort of get this interview segment wrapped up here, and they want to go to your website. Give them some words of encouragement, though, if they're on the fence about writing.
Yeah, well, if you're thinking about writing, the biggest thing you can do is not give up. Keep at it. Write as much as you can, as often as you can. Read everything you can read. Read in the genre you're writing in. Read in other areas. Read thrillers. Read adventures. Read history. Read whatever you can, and don't give up. I say that because I didn't publish my first book until I was 77.
That's wonderful. Well, I think it's high time for some research, John. I think we should figure out a way to get you in maybe a fighter jet and
Right.
just go fly something fast and incredible. And it's research, right? I mean, if they take credit cards, it's a business expense at this point. So,
Right. Well, Tom Cruise has a fighter.
Yeah.
Get a hold of him. Have him give me a ride.
There you go. Well, I think that's high time for a guy writing about space, and but that is so true. That's what is so fascinating to me about what you're doing is the fact that you can tackle these things. I have a friend who's a writer, and he won't put anything in a book unless he completely understands it. And I think that your description of what you've been able to come up with, how you've researched it, and then how you just sort of put yourself in there and imagine. That's what writers do. That's just such a great way of explaining it. I love it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to put yourself in a different body, different person.
I love it. Well, John, thanks for being here, and what a word of encouragement. 77 is when you published your first book, huh?
Yeah, 78 for the second one, and I just had a birthday, so the third one will be when 79.
Congratulations. There's not a lot of people that get to live that long, and you're doing it right.
Yeah, and, if you're writing, don't give up.
Amen.
Stick with it.
John Costales, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Country, that's what I grew up listening to.
Georgia Radio. We love you more than peanuts and peaches. So glad you're here.